There is another Caitlin Clark controversy. This time around, it is that she is not on the women's team going to represent the United States at the Olympics. I read the reason for it. It came from Christine Brennan, who basically said it's because they're worried about the intensity of the fanfare and are these Looney Tune people who think Caitlin Clark should be taking every shot, who don't really follow women's basketball, going to be beside themselves because she's only playing 10 minutes a night. But this is taken on a life of its own, as does everything with Caitlin Clark. She, again, had a perfect response to this. It was basically like, thanks for the motivation. I'm going to work towards being on the Olympic roster the next time. Your thoughts when this story came out? Because this, again, caused quite the dust storm over the weekend.
I think my first reaction was a little like, that sucks. Seeing Caitlin Clark is great. I like watching Caitlin Clark because she's good at basketball, and I like watching good basketball players. It's a little frustrating because I've about had my fill with these fake controversies, these fake outrages that a lot of people in this country seem to have, especially in our industry, the sports media business.
Yeah.
These people tweeting about Caitlin Clark. I don't see any tweets about regular season WNBA basketball. Hey, the Connecticut Sun lost for the first time this year at home to New York Liberty, and Sabrina Ionescu was awesome in the second half of that game. Don't see that the Aces lost last night to a bad Sparks team. Don't see any of that stuff. No. I just see the controversy and the quote-unquote outrage because it's clickbait.
It generates clicks. It generates eyeballs.
It's utter ridiculousness. Like, look, is she great and worthy of being on the Olympic team? Sure. Who you bumping? Now, the people that don't watch or care about this sport and pretending are because they want to capitalize on the Caitlin Clark fever.
Well, they can't name 3 players on the team.
No pun intended. And that's okay, but you're not one of these people. They can't even name the roster. They wouldn't even know who to start with. They would probably choose Brittany Griner because they were also probably the same don't take drugs into a country person. So it's all fake to me, and I kind of just like roll my eyes at it at this point. I think it's ridiculous. It's her first year in the league. Yeah, she was a all-time and is an all-time great college basketball player that is doing tremendously great things for the league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just asking people to listen to her herself. And by the way, I think the reasoning is kind of dumb. The whole, like, we're afraid that the fans will get mad she's not playing or whatever.
Yeah.
But also, I saw a video of Kennedy Carter being like screamed at in public when the Chicago Sky were in town right after the whole flopping flagrant 1 push.
Right.
So people take cult of personality, as we see clearly in this country, very seriously, and they become obsessed with other people for dumb reasons. And there's a little bit of stuff to that Caitlin Clark factor, but I'm kind of tired of the fake controversy. She's great for the game. Nobody denies that. She's doing a lot of great things for the sport. Absolutely. But also people chiming in on it or not watching. And I'm kind of getting tired of watching and get hijacked by hot take artists who don't really have any interest in it.
I've actually seen people bring up that this is probably good for her just in terms of it's unique.
Rest?
Yeah, there's sports unique.
She hasn't been let off since they started her women's basketball season.
Exactly. So, like, you use men's basketball as an example. College basketball, the season ended, 2 months ago? However long it's been.
Usually ends in early April.
Yeah. So now you're building up. The draft is until the end of the month. And then if they get drafted, they're not going to be showing up to training camp until September. And then the season starts in October. So you got a long off season. Whereas in the women's game, you basically go straight from the NCAA tournament to like a month later is the draft to like a month later your season starts. And there's no break really in between for these gals. And so I've seen some people bring that up of like, this is good. She needs some time off to like rest and recruit and get ready for next year. So in that regard, I thought it was an interesting take. This was when the outrage is always hilarious to me because it's people that don't really care that much anyways. They just like jumping on to a story to get attention or to get clicks. The only thought that I had here was it does feel like a little bit of a missed opportunity just in terms of she is doing something to that game that they've been asking for forever. They want attention. They want eyeballs. we did our favorite things from the weekend, and I gave the number that they played in Washington, 2 teams that had combined 3-21 on the season. Their opponent in the Mystics had not won a game all season, still winless on the year. and they sold out an NBA arena. 20,000 people went to watch two of the worst teams in the WNBA play. Just imagine uttering that sentence 5 years ago, that two WNBA teams that combined for the worst in the league are going to sell out an NBA arena.
One's from Indiana, the other's in DC.
Right.
Yeah, it would have been
20,000. It's insane.
Right.
So there's those kind of opportunities where I don't know what their chances are of winning outside of it. Seems like it's a slam dunk because women's basketball
they're a heavy favorite.
Has not lost a game. It feels like an international play in a long time.
The women's international game is not the equivalent to the men's in a lot of ways.
So there's going to be a lot of blowouts. There's going to be a lot of lopsided contests. She would pick up minutes here or there. To me, it was just an opportunity to say, do you want to come hang out on the bench? To your question, I don't have an answer to it. Who do you kick off? That's a really good one, and I've seen a lot of people bring that up because there's other really good players in that league who have been also snubbed from this roster, just like there is on the men's side. Sometimes I feel like you have to set aside what's right and what's best for your product. And what's best for the product is this would have been a great opportunity to, hey, these are the best women players in the world. They're all playing on the same team. And if Caitlin Clark's there, I don't know what the percentage is, but there's going to be
up.
10%, 50%, 20%, whatever it is. There's an increase in attention that people will pay. And now they're going to go win a gold medal. They're going to win every game by 35 points.
Sure.
And there's not going to be a lot of eyeballs that come with it. And that's just, to me, it's unfortunate. It's a bummer. And I don't blame them for making this call. It's a very difficult one to make because there's a lot of really good players, and she's probably not deserving of it yet. It's just an idea of, what could it have done for your sport going forward if she was on the roster?
I think that's what it mostly is because it's not a skill set thing. Like, she's clearly talented. I've mentioned, like, when she runs pick and rolls, her teammates are terrible. She makes so many good passes. They just smoke layups, and it's ridiculous. But also, how many players have been really good coming out of college and less than year one are on the men's Olympic team? How often does that happen? Like, you have a Christian Laettner on the Dream Team scenario.
I think that was the rule. They had to have a player from college. Wasn't there some
sort of
stipulation?
I was trying to verify during the break because I feel like that was a thing, but I'm trying to, like, double check to make sure that was, like, they usually took a college player. But you go back and watch those, they punked him. They bring him at practice, and they just go at his throat.
Yes.
And you're seeing the same thing happen in the WNBA, but I didn't see any outrage about Christian Laettner in the early 90s, so but of course, we got to jump on. I don't disagree with most of what you said. It certainly, she reaches an audience that a lot of the other league doesn't for a myriad of reasons. But I would also say, too, if she's make or breaking you watching the Olympics, then you just don't want to watch women's basketball.
Totally fair.
And you don't have to. Nobody's making anybody watch women's basketball or care about it. We have a lot of people listening to this. They're just like, and that's okay.
They will automatically win a gold. We know the outcome.
But I don't know. I just think it's kind of a weird argument to have of, like, I don't disagree about the popularity of her and what she has clearly meant to that sport.
Yeah.
But if she makes or breaks you watching it, then you don't care.
I think
you're not you, but like the proverbial you.
Oh, I'm definitely in that category. For
okay,
sure.
Then that's okay. Yeah. Then it's fake caring.
Yeah.
Because she's had a lot of games, she scored 3 points and 10 points. And
absolutely.
Like, I've left going, rookie wall, she's getting double teamed and she's not hitting some shots and all that stuff. And, that's kind of the life of a rookie. I just think
well, I think the question,
the narratives of this stuff are
it's ridiculous.
A fascinating conversation that, like, this is the only way people are talking about the WNBA instead of the way we talk about every other sport. Somebody said yesterday to me, a producer on my gambling show, they do this about LeBron. And I said, yeah, they do. And then they followed up with more NBA talk. This is it. They do Caitlin Clark. The national radio shows are going to do Caitlin Clark. We're going to do Caitlin Clark. And then we'll move on. We'll move on to the next thing. And I understand the name of the game. It's clicks, it's headlines, all that stuff. But it's also a very disingenuous way of talking about, I think, that sport, the league, where it's all at. Because, yes, she is absolutely spearheading a lot of popularity. But if you actually legitimately gave it a shot, you might find yourself interested in a lot of other narratives happening in that league.
Absolutely. I think and this is the response to it, and I don't know if this even happens for anybody, myself included, but it is that if there's a draw to get you to watch, and that draw would be Caitlin Clark, is there something that sparks an interest or an excitement in wanting to watch more because of what you see, because you're watching because of her?
Well,
does that make sense?
No,
like,
it does.
I'm watching and then I'm like, hey, she's really good. She's really good. She's really good. I want to watch her. I want to watch her. When's her next game on? Like, does
this
it
was
spark
Angel
a fandom?
Reese, though, Dirt. And then she spoke out and said, I'm also popular. And people were like, shut up. No, you're not. And it's like, well, she does have 1 million more followers on IG. And,
yeah.
You know, people did want to tune into those Iowa LSU games because there was a little bit of contentious rivalry stuff happening. We love it, right? And then you had just the black-white part of that. Hey, Angel Reese, and you had Caitlin Clark. That adds an element to it, too, no matter what anybody thinks. So
pointing at the ring finger is the whole thing.
Yeah, the you can't see me stuff. Like, there are players that are kind of going at her from a competitive standpoint, and it's something we usually commend, I think, in other sports with men. But with women, it's like, we got to protect her. And a listener said earlier, people like sounding off on this stuff sound like people that don't watch women's sports like at all in any level. Women's soccer, also very physical, very intense.
Yes.
I coach 6th grade girls. I know it doesn't sound like it rings true to everybody. They're very hyper competitive.
Mm-hmm.
They get very pissed. I had to almost break up like 3 different fights at 3 different times this season. So they're also, breaking news, women also competitive. It's not just men.
What? No.
I just, if you get into it because of Caitlin Clark, that's awesome. If all you care about Caitlin Clark, then at least just be honest and say it. And if you don't follow it at all, that's also okay. I just don't kind of like the way people are wading into the women's basketball waters and wanting her to be treated differently when she herself multiple times now has basically bucked that idea. I need to earn it. It's competition. This happens all the time. I'm also an a-hole. I will work harder and make the Olympic team in 4 years like every other pro at my level has had to do.
She had a great quote to her coach told her she didn't make the team, and I think her initial response was they woke up,
great.
A little fire into my ass,
Awesome.
basically, something along those lines.
If that means she's going to come for the throats and beat the Storm and the Aces and the Lynxes of the league, like the Sun, go do it. I want to see it. I think it's great for it. I just have a hard time a lot with these conversations because I just think they're fake. I think people have fake outrage. They have fake tweets that mean nothing. They don't care.
No.
They're farming aggregation. And I hate it. I don't like it. Women deserve support. You don't have to love women's basketball. That's okay, but don't wade into the waters if you're not going to pay it any attention at all.
So another controversy. It always follows Caitlin Clark. She has left off the USA women's basketball roster for the Olympics, and she said it lit a fire under her ass. So we'll see what it does for her when it comes to WNBA play, but not going to be in Paris, it appears.